Also, I'd like to mention that sleeping on the ground, we talked about the logistics of it, that we slept on the ground, virtually all the time, and seldom ever put up a tent or a pup tent. I don't know if I ever did. And of course, no air mattresses. I imagine nowadays they live pretty good, but just maybe kind of hollow out a little place for the hip bone and for the shoulders, and that's the way we slept for many, many months after. At Anzio, we were at the same spot for a couple of months, probably, maybe, about that. But in a way, we of course, we were subject to a lot of enemy fire there, so we had pretty elaborate foxholes. A lot of us were two-man. We had a roof on them and made up of whatever we could find, and we were fairly comfortable there. We're still sleeping on the ground, on a blanket, I guess.
On the breakout there, you want to tell a little about what we got through in the breakout and those minefields and stuff?
Yeah. He's getting ready.
So you got wounded there, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be May I can remember the day because my wife's birthday wasn't my wife then. It was May 23rd, and I guess the night of May 22nd. Stan had told me to take 3 guys, and we were going up, go out in front of the infantry and prepare. I don't know whether we knew for sure they were going to break out in a day or two, but I imagine we suspected it. So we were up, and it's a beautiful night in May. I imagine the new moon. I imagine it was mighty dark, and I can remember how nice a night it was. But anyway, we were fairly close to the Germans, and they were shelling with mortar fire. I think we could hear the mortars. We didn't get that a lot. We were never usually, not a lot of the time that we were exposed like that. But anyway, shell landed. There was 3 of it: Como and Spencer and Tony Brazil, and it was out in front of an infantry outpost. He had a real elaborate. I didn't know that at the time, but I knew we were in front of it, and it landed right in among us, and it killed Como, Leo Como from Massachusetts, and Spencer. He's an older fella, I suppose a draftee. I knew at the time where he was from, but I don't remember now. And I got slightly wounded, and Tony Brazil is a little guy from Philadelphia area. He didn't get hurt, and I went back to this army outpost, and the fella called the medics. And I remember Doc Hume. He was our company medic, and he came up and he said that Como and Spencer were dead, and I had trouble believing it. I said, Doc, how do you know? And he said feel, but they were. We hauled them back to a grave registration unit, I guess. We carried them back and I think we put them on the back of what they call Jeeps now. We called it Peeps, and hauled them to a bigger truck, our squad truck, and then we hauled them back. And I went. They took me to a aid station, and I ended up in the hospital, and then went back to in a MASH type hospital on the beachhead, and then back to Naples. a bigger hospital. But I was lucky. It was we talk about million-dollar wounds, and it was a very good description of what happened to me. I remember I had my canteen on my hip, the aluminum, and it got a hole in it. I didn't know it till I got wet from leaking, but I got hit in the leg and the hand, and no problem. It was just real lucky. But anyway, then I was in a hospital, and June 6th was D-Day. That was about be a week or so after we had our Anzio deal, and then the guys come back from that. Arnold Brown especially, I knew him real well, and he got hit bad on the breakout of Anzio, and he came back to the hospital, and we could go up on the top deck, at the top roof. It was an old building, but they're about 5 or 6 floors high, and we could go up on it. And this would be in early June. Weather was beautiful in Italy, and but Brownie was hit bad through the head. It wasn't through his mouth; it was above it, so it went through his head up here. He lost an eye, and his mouth was all beat. He was, but I can remember that. Then, as a side, after the war, when I came out to Rapid City, after we come home, and I come out to Rapid City to go to school after we got married, and Brownie was out here. Arnold Brown was out here working, and we couldn't get a car then. That's another story. But for a lot of you newer people, younger people, you wouldn't know that. But after the war, you couldn't buy. Well, we got married, came out here. You couldn't buy a clock. You couldn't buy a spatula. You used a trowel for. You could buy a trowel, so that worked. But it wasn't much of a hardship compared to comparatively. But they couldn't get a car. I put in for a new one, and you couldn't get them, especially if you didn't have much money to give them besides what they were asking for them. So we walked for a couple of years. But Brownie, being hurt so bad, he got a car right away, and we go around the hills a lot with Brownie and his wife.
When did you get back to the company after your wound there?
I don't have any idea of the date, but I suppose the middle of June, and let's see, where would they be? Of course, they'd be north of Rome. Anzio was below Rome, and they'd been through Rome. I don't know, maybe between Rome and Florence and somewhere along in there. But got back to the same outfit, which I was happy to do.
Did you? During the fighting there that winter north of Florence, were you involved in that?
No. Let's see. When did I say June? June of 44.
44, yeah.
That's what we're talking about now. And about shortly after that, maybe a month or two, they were going to send us home on some people home on furlough. We had been overseas for quite a long time. From January of 41, and had been fighting it quite a bit. So the big people decided that they were going to send people home from Italy on furlough, 30-day furlough. And they were going by points. And having a Purple Heart for being wounded gave you 5 points. But there still would quite a few that would have had that too. But anyway, I got to go home on the first batch.